Texas University. So that's one thing, because that means that your full GI Bill benefits can be used. You don't get a partial payment. You don't have to pay as much out of pocket. Now, the flip side of that, of course, is you do have to deal with the federal VA and hope that they actually give you your benefits on time. And they're known to be delayed anywhere from a month to 6 months. So that means you're a whole semester, perhaps even more behind. So you have to pay one semester out of pocket. Next semester comes up, they still haven't paid you, and you have to pay for your second semester. May even have to take a loan, but the VA will eventually get you your money. Now, you're still going to pay that interest on those loans, which isn't covered by your GI Bill. That's comes from you having to take out the loan to get to school while you're waiting for the VA to get their head out of the place where they sit. So it's kind of a good thing going on. But we're going to use that as a quick segue into talking about the body part that you sit on, or one that's kind of located in the middle of that. Don't know if you've seen it or not. It's been bouncing around for a couple of days. But they were able to get a hold of some of Lois Lerner's emails, I guess, eventually. And she referred to people on the right of center area of the political ideology spectrum as, a void surrounded by a muscle where waste products come out. An obscene term used for a body part, so to speak. Your rectal area, another term for that. And that's of interest, that she actually referred to as, to those of us who are on the right side of the spectrum, as being all crazy and being, well, that body part, in official emails, mind you. So, does that lend to the possibility of targeting? It sure does. And of course, because that lends into the whole investigation. You've got Trey Gowdy, who is in charge of the investigation into the IRS scandal. And he's sitting in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And the Democrats who sit on that particular committee called for somebody to testify against establishing a special counsel in regards to the scandal. And that person was a Professor Charles Tiefer. Tiefer has openly criticized Boehner's attempt to file a lawsuit against Obama and several other things. Well, he was invited in there, and of course he's a big proponent of the Obama administration. But he goes in and decides to go head-to-head with Trey Gowdy, who is a former prosecuting attorney. So, here you have bigwig law professor. That means he's not just a JD, doctorate of law. This means he's supposed to be an expert among experts. The guy the experts go to for advice. That's what the term professor means. It's the doctor of doctors. Well, he goes in and sits with Gowdy and starts spouting some gobbledygook and basically trying to treat Gowdy as though he's not very bright. Really, really dumb move, because Trey Gowdy is anything but dim. So he turns around, and this it's an article that first appeared in the Blaze, and then there's an additional write-up with some additional commentary over on BuzzPo. If you want to go and take a read of it, it's quite an interesting read. But just I'm going to give you some quotes of the little exchange between Gowdy and Tiefer. Gowdy says, "Professor Tiefer, would you seat a juror who referred to your client as an obscene body part?" Tiefer hesitates and then says, "I'm sorry?" Gowdy redirects, "Would you seat a juror in a trial who referred to your client as an obscene body part?" Tiefer, again perplexed, looks back and says, I really have trouble to giving you an answer on that, except that, of course, Gowdy has to interject and give the law professor a lesson. Well, then you would starve to death as an actual trial lawyer. If you can't answer that question, professor, you would seriously consider seating a juror in a trial, a criminal trial, where your client was accused of a crime, if that juror had referred to your client as an obscene body part. You would struggle with whether or not to strike that juror? All right, folks, come on, think about this. Somebody is going to be, sitting as the one who judges what's going to happen, decide your fate. And this person evidently does not like you. Would you really want that person deciding your fate? Probably not. Well, Tiefer's response. Well, it doesn't sound too good. And Gowdy responds, no, it's not. I'll give you some free litigation advice. You're going to want to use one of your strikes on that juror. So with that little exchange, Trey Gowdy looked at the so-called law professor and basically took him to school. Said, you've been sitting too much time in the classroom, not enough time in a trial setting, so you really are out of touch. You have no idea how to be a lawyer anymore. And then, Trey Gowdy, Representative Gowdy, kind of nails hits the nail home here with a final statement. It says, I'll give you the connection. Lois Lerner just referred to conservatives as an obscene body part and said that we're crazies and likened us to terrorists. And of course, right there, the light kind of finally came on in the law professor's eyes. So go ahead and take a look at that article. Get yourself some morning chuckles at the idiocy and lunacy of the liberal mindset, as it may be. And even if you are on the left side ideologically, you got to look at some of the people that kind of represent your ideology there. Some of them are supposed to be really learned people. Other things going on concerning some of these scandals is a federal court evidently finally ordered the Department of Justice to release its Fast and Furious information to the courts, so they can actually, and also under the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA requests that were filed by Judicial Watch in order to get all the documentation that was withheld by Congress. Well, a federal court said under the FOIA, you've got to turn that information over. So that's of note. So Judicial Watch now is going to have some data to pour over concerning Fast and Furious. So maybe we'll finally get some actual answers. Okay, well that was odd. I don't know if y'all heard it, but I kind of had some bleed over, which I apologize for. Speaking of bleed over, I still haven't bled over to the other things that that Governor Perry is up to. But yesterday, as soon as it came out that the Boehner border bill was going to be dead in the water, and with President Obama already preemptively declaring that he was going to veto H.R. 5320 if it actually passed. And of course I don't know if y'all heard or not, but although they passed cloture on the Senate bill, it failed to actually pass in the Senate on a procedural vote. So it did not make a final vote and was not passed. So there's no border bill. And of course, Dirty Harry Reid isn't going to let any of Senator Cruz's bills get voted on, get a floor vote, even be put on the agenda. And then, of course, one of them was mirrored by Blackburn, and those are one of the ones that Boehner added a bunch of amendments to and kind of mutated into something that wouldn't work, and that's the original bill isn't getting voted on. So all the news kind of came out, and there was nothing done. And shortly after noon, good old Governor Perry got the word that the federal government is not doing what it has to do, because Immigration and Border Enforcement is listed in the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, as a responsibility of the federal government. So they're supposed to do this, and they're not doing anything. They're not doing enough. They're not giving it the credence that they're supposed to. They're too worried about food stamps and minimum wage laws and things that are not within the federal government's authority, instead of worrying about the things that are. Of course, that includes interstate roads, or mail roads as they're called within the, or postal roads as they're called in the Constitution, fall under their mandate. And that bill, I need to check the status, but I think it was still hanging at the end. It may have passed. I need to double check my roster on that one. But the border bill did not. None of them did. So Governor Perry issued his response, and I have a full write-up over at BuzzPo on what Perry's full response and some of the background data and what was happening with this was. But quite bluntly, Governor Perry said, "It's beyond belief that Congress is abandoning its post while our border crisis continues to create humanitarian suffering, and criminal aliens still represent a clear threat to our citizens and to our nation. While Texas has taken what steps it can to mitigate the damage caused by a porous border, Congress and the President have a duty to address our border security issues without further delay. Congress should not go into recess until the job is completed." And then, over on her Facebook page, Governor Jan Brewer of Arizona posted, "After today's phone call with the Obama administration officials, I'll start this off for everyone. President Obama's approach to border security is unconscionable. The American people have had enough. We are demanding immediate action to return illegal aliens, whether adults or minors, to their countries of origin and secure our border. Along with my fellow governors, we participated today in a conference call with the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Deputy Director of the Office of Management and Budget, and the Director of the White House Office Intergovernmental Affairs. During the call, it was confirmed what I have long suspected. The Obama administration has specifically chosen to avoid its due diligence and is releasing unaccompanied alien children into the care and custody of so-called sponsors, individuals about whom the administration does not check immigration or deportation status. As a governor, it's beyond frustrating that once again this administration deliberately neglects its duty to act in a responsible manner and uphold the law. But as a mother, it's unconscionable that federal officials willingly release children into the permanent custody of people of which little, if anything, is known. I call on the President Obama and his administration to immediately correct this practice and to expedite the removal of illegal aliens to their home country. The American people have had enough. They demand immediate action to return illegal aliens, whether adults or minors, to their countries of origin and secure our border. I am confident voters will hold our elected officials accountable at the ballot box." And that was from Governor Brewer. So So that's 2 of the 4 border states heard from. They happen to be the 2 that have or are considered red states or have GOP governors. And they've already sounded off. And the people are upset here. And the really interesting thing is, if you walk around I really am not a fan of hyphenated nationality labels. But you talk to the Mexican Americans, the people who we have here in San Antonio, in the San Antonio area, we actually do have people who were born in Mexico and are now American citizens. So they are actual Mexican Americans. You go around the population, the people who legally came here, who happen to be Latino, happen to be Mexican, and you talk to them, and by and large, it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum they fall on, they're right along with, those who are on the left are right along with Henry Cuellar, saying, hey, look, these current policies don't affect Mexican children. If it's a Mexican child, they're turned around and kicked right back within 48 hours, most of the time. These non-contiguous states that are sending their kids, it's not fair. It's not equitable. It's not the law evenly applied to everybody. Okay, so they're kind of delving into the 14th Amendment there, and I can agree with them on that. The problem is, none of them are American citizens. Now, should we treat them all equally? Yes. Unless you can prove that you are going to be a benefit to our nation, get out. And if you can be a benefit to our nation, come here legally. Why do you have to break the law? If you really, really belong here, then do it the right way. And show us that you belong here. So, but that's the response coming out of the red state governors there. And like I said, I was going to segue over to the other things that Governor Perry is doing, and he's continuing to push and do what he can for Texas anyway. Now, speaking of threats and national security threats, I have an interesting little couple of words here coming from former President Bill Clinton. So I wonder what old Bubba had to say here. And then after I play this, I'll tell you when he said it. And this, again, comes from a write-up by, I think it was Steve Ale over on BuzzPo. I might be incorrect on the author. But it comes from an article, again, over on BuzzPo. But we're going to give it a listen, hopefully, and see what Billy Bubba had to say.
99% of the time, what happens when it's 1%? Here's the former president.
And I'm just saying, if I were Osama bin Laden, he's a very smart guy. I spent a lot of time thinking about him. And I nearly got him once. I nearly got him. And I could have killed him, but I would have had to destroy a little town called Kandahar in Afghanistan and kill 300 innocent women and children. And then I would have been no better than him. And so I didn't do it.
So that was Bubba Clinton talking about how he had Osama bin Laden in his sights during his presidency, and he could have taken him out, except he was in Kandahar and he didn't want to risk the collateral damage, which I can understand. But he admits that bin Laden was a threat, and he could have taken him out. And could have taken him out and stopped him back during his administration. Now, when did Bubba give this speech? Well, he's no longer president at the time. He gave this speech on September 10th, 2001. Think what happened the next day, folks. Think about that. Wow. The day prior to the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, the day prior to that, old Bubba Clinton said, I could have taken out bin Laden, but I didn't.